Okay, so now we made it to the final section of this chapter, and we're going to talk more about TDD in action. We're going to reinforce more of what we've taught you in this chapter from the beginning. So, if you're new to this channel and you would like to follow along with the curriculum, it is free. The link is in the description. It doesn't cost you anything. So, let's get into it. TDD in action. Open Transmission Processor. That's in the JavaScript project unit testing chapter example. So let's open that up. We already had that open. So we're in the chapter example. Which one it wants us to go? Right here. So I'm going to open that up, open up the test, and here's the actual file right here. Let me close that. And so here's our file right here. And this is the test that we are going to focus on writing, or you're going to write. I'm going to walk through this with you to help you understand it. So here we go. And follow along as we implement a project using TDD. We need to write a node module to process transmission from the Voyager 1 probe. Here's the example, transmission. Notice that this is in a string. Then the expected results. It's inside of an object. So if you think like the compiler, when I see these curly braces, my mind is thinking this is a compiler. I mean, not a compiler, but an object. And it has a key and it has the values. And this is a number and this is a number, because it doesn't have quotes around it. But yet this right here does have quotes around it. So let's go a little bit further to understand what's going on here. Requirements. The features for this project has already been broken down into small testable units. Let's review them and then we will take it slow, one step at a time. 1. Take in a transmission string and return an object. Return -1. What does that mean when we say -1? That means we want to make it all the way to the end of whatever is in a collection. If the transmission does not contain these two colons, return. So what that means, return 1, -1. What is a -1? What does that mean? Again, we know it to mean one thing is to make it to the end of something, but this is also telling me that this is possibly a Boolean. So if the transmission does not contain this, return a -1. Now, return object should contain an ID property. The value of ID is the part of the transmission before the two colons. 4. The ID property should be of type number. Remember, value. This is a value, but it needs to be of the type number. Types are values. Returned object should contain a raw data property. 1. The value of raw data is the part of the transmission after the two colons. Return -1 for the value raw data if the raw data part of the transmission does not start with open angle bracket and with an ending angle bracket. All right, that's our example. Now, requirement number 1. Requirement. Take in a transmission string and return an object. To get started on this, we need to A. Create a blank test function. B. Give the test a name that is a clear testable statement. Creating a blank test is easy. Go to the process.test.js that we already opened up in our Visual Code, which is this right here. And test and jest are declared with a test function. Remember, the test go inside of the describe function, which along with the string parameter describes the group of tests inside. So we have describe as the function, and we have a test inside of it. We can have a group of tests. Notice the word here, a group of tests inside. Remember, it's passing in two arguments. One is of a string, the other one is of a function. And inside that function are the group of tests that we will apply. Give the test the name tasks or takes. Give the test the name takes a string and returns an object. So in our string inside of test takes a string, we're describing what the test is. It's self-documenting here. And then we're going to have what we call here this anonymous function. Now that we identify a clear goal for the test, let's add logic and expect calls in the test to verify the described behavior. But wait, we haven't added anything except an empty test at this point. There isn't any actual code to verify. That's okay. This is a part of the TDD process. So we're writing the test first. That's the thing with TDD. It's test-driven development. We're writing the test first because we're thinking about all the use cases first, and then we're going to write the function. Well, if we go back up here, we're giving you an example of a string, and then we want that string to be broken down into an object, which is two parts. And first part is going to be the ID, which 9 times out of 10 means that that is going to be a primary key, because when we start dealing with databases, you'll understand more why we have this is why we call them keys and values, because when we start dealing with data like SQL or anything like that, we have a primary key, and most of the time your primary key is going to be an ID, meaning that that doesn't change. All right, so let me keep going down. Let me see where we are. What do I remember? Okay, I think this is where I left off. Now that I see that is okay, that's a part of it. Now we're going to think about and visualize how this feature should be implemented in code. Then we will write out in the test how this new code will be used. We need to think of something that will satisfy the statement. Test takes a string and returns an object. The test will be a function that is imported from a module. Below on line 1, a processor function is imported from the processor.js module. So here we go. Remember, we still have to import it. We're using require as an importer. Remember this term, import, import, import. So require imports the path of the file that we need. So understand how this works, because we're going to be importing a lot of things when we get to React, but it's not going to be called require, but just understand how this works. And then we have the describe function that passes in 2 arguments, letting me know what the whole function is mainly about. And then inside of the test is what I'm testing for the use cases. So this is basically the whole considered function that I'm going to test. These actual tests are the group of different things that I want to test within that function, use cases. Now we have an idea of a function named processor, and we have imported it. Keep in mind, this function only exists as a concept, and we are writing a test to see if the concept makes sense. This is the whole point of TDD. We're just writing, these are concepts, and we're just thinking through the process, because as a developer, you should always know what the result is before you write any code. So that's the premises of TDD. Now, for the real heart of the test, we're going to use expect.toBe methods to verify that if we pass a string to processor, an object is returned. Carefully review lines 7 and 8 shown below. So here we go, 7 and 8. We created a variable, because remember, this is a function. I can create this variable, and I'm using the processor function because I'm looking for that file, and there must be a function inside there, which it hasn't been. It's right here. Where we at? Is it inside of here? This is just a test, and I guess we got to create that actual file. Let me see if it's inside the test. No. So we got to create that file. So let me take that back. That's why we're calling it TDD. Duh, because we got to create the function. That's why the file doesn't exist yet. We haven't created it yet. So hopefully I just didn't make you guys go crazy. Oh my God, what is he? What? I don't see that. Okay, so we're creating this result, this variable, and then we're going to pass in, this is going to be a function, because we know that this is with parentheses, and we're passing in that argument. But what we're expecting type of result. What is the type of result? To be object. So that's what we're thinking through this whole process. We know that we're going to want it to be an object. On line 6, the processor function is called, with the value being stored in a result variable. Now remember, we're creating that variable, we're storing it in the result variable. On line 8, the result of the expression type of result is compared to the value object. All right, we're comparing it. So to be is compared to whatever we're expecting. Reminder that the type of operator returns a string representation of a type. If type of result evaluates to the string object, then we know that the processor returned an object. All right, code red. Run the test. Type in the command npm run test to check your test. You should see an error about processor.js not existing. This makes sense because we have not created the file yet. We are officially in the red phase of red-green refactor. Now it's time to go green. Now that we have a failing test, we have only one choice. Make it pass. Now this is where we want to add the processor.js file to your project. So now when we go inside of the module, declare a processor function that takes a parameter and returns an object, contents of the new processor.js file. So here we go. This is the function that we needed to create. And so inside of the processor, so does that mean I need to create a file for this? Read the directions. Add a processor.js file. So yes. And so we add that file. Where we're going to add that file, we're going to come here. We're going to make sure we are at so we're inside the unit test. In the unit test, we should be inside let's close these two up. Let's go ahead and create the example right here inside of the unit test. And then we can come up here to VS Code and we can create another file. And then that's what we call it. Processor.js. So now the folder is created. So now we got to create the file, and then I'm gonna take that. I got to rename this because I don't want that to be JS. So let me do a rename. I just want the file. This is just a directory, so I don't want the file extension on here. Now I want to come in and create that file extension. There we go. So now the file is created. So now you're going to go ahead and place this code on the inside. I want you to do that. Now, refactor if needed. This solution is very simple and does not need to be improved. The refactor step does not refactor step does not always lead to an actual changing of your code. The most important part is to review your code to make sure that it's efficient and meets your team's standard. The key in this is the team standards and making your code efficient. The code may already be efficient, but The point of refactoring is to go back and continue to review what you've already written to see if there's any way to make it better. Okay, I'm going to stop the video there. It's getting a little long, so this is just part one. So go back and review. Make sure you get an understanding of what we talked about so far. Make sure you created your file, put your function into it. Also, again, created your test first. Then create your file, then create your function so you can test it to get green. So we've done red and we've done green for this particular task. Okay, so now remember, the more you do, the more you improve. See you in the next video.